All right, guys, welcome into the show. Welcome in to the Work Verticals podcast, episode 71. How about that? 71 shows in. Got 30 more shows left until the big 100, episode 100. That should be, give or take, about a couple months or so. We're getting closer, ever so slightly closer to the vaunted 100 episodes. That means it'll be ripe for syndication back in the old standards of TV. But yeah, welcome to the show, episode 71. Of course, everyone's talking about the Super Bowl and all that type of stuff. Couldn't be us. I'm not going to mention it here. Besides that, mostly college football. We have Captain America: Brave New World coming out this Friday for international markets later this week. The initial reactions, I believe, come out tonight, and then they'll trickle out throughout the week. So I'll keep it on tabs on that for sure. Just how good the movie is. I'll probably go see it probably this week, maybe next week. I'll let you guys know on that. But I'm very excited about that. Spring practice, by the way, Air Force starting it. Golf clap. Air Force Falcons starting spring practice according to Brian Marcelo yesterday. So they, as of today, it's February 11th, they have started. So how about that? Spring practice underway. Still a little bit of ways for the big boys to get involved, but won't be too much longer before they will start getting those, practice reports and scrimmages and intel and stuff. We'll be part of that. Don't worry about that. Rundown for today's show. Got some final thoughts on the transfer portal. We'll go over a little bit of that here at some point during the show, during the beginning of the show. So we'll do that. Ja'Juan Seider, the Penn State running backs coach, on the move, going to Notre Dame. Touch on that a little bit. Most of you probably don't know who he even is, but I care. I know. Speaking of Marvel, Thunderbolts trailer came out Sunday during the Super Bowl. Got major thoughts on that. Told you guys that was going to be a big deal for a trailer, and I got some thoughts on that. I'm going to wrap up the show with the predictions versus reality segment. You guys seem to love that one by one shoe. But yeah, some water here, and then we'll get the show started here with some final thoughts on the winter portal. So going over the top 5 teams, if you will. Get some water real quick. Make sure the voice is ready to go. As of course we are live on the air on YouTube, and we're not live on Spotify. You can go live on Spotify, but this will be recorded to Spotify. So a couple of things here before we actually do. I lied a little bit. So a couple of things. Make sure you're doing. Number one, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Number two, make sure you follow me on Twitter at @4birds_pod, and make sure you follow us on the podcast feed. Please do that. That is very, very important. If you haven't done it, I know we have 4 subscribers. If the 4 of you are listening to this show and have done so, good for you. The other ones who have not, make sure you have. That's very important. You guys don't need to be left out of the be able to get intel from the show, because you're missing out on a lot of stuff here. Why wouldn't you? So make sure you get out again. Subscribe. Okay. And the voice is ready. Got my water. Let's get into it. So the winter transfer portal cycle, for the most part, is over with, unless a random coach gets fired. The portal hasn't been closed. The database is locked up. Won't open again until, I think, late April, early May. For about 9 days. It's shaved off a little bit from the last time. They've been shrinking it a little bit. So it'll be a little bit lower than it was last year. It's not the full 2 weeks, but a week and a couple of days. But we do have this. The winter cycle has been over. Let's go over the top 5 teams. They're on. I'm using, by the way, 247's page. By the way, so this will be 1 through 5. So going down in ascending order. So going, or I guess descending. Ascending. So number 1, going on to number 5. So first off, LSU, 2 Ole Miss, Texas Tech, Oregon, Miami. A lot of these schools obviously using the portal for different reasons. Ole Miss, they are traditional. At least under Lane Kiffin, a very usual suspect in there. By the way, a pretty big class. By the way, out of all the classes, there really are the biggest class in the SEC. Jordan Simmons from Akron coming in there. Percy Lewis from Auburn. Don't think anyone from Auburn was shedding a tear from him leaving. Um, Harrison Wallace, third from Penn State. Pretty decent receiver there. Obviously, they're losing some guys in the NFL. No real other big-time gets. A couple of guys from interconference. But we also got another player from Auburn, Antonio White. Kite. Again, I don't think anyone from Lee County, Alabama is shedding a tear over that. Decent enough player for Ole Miss. A couple other guys. A lot of decent talent, 4-star, 3-star guys. They're number 2 for a reason. Kind of going out of order here, but that's like the biggest out of like the top 5 classes here. LSU is pretty important. Now, obviously, of course, a lot of folks, understandably so to a certain extent, upset about Brian Kelly. He hasn't won a season opener yet. It seems to be a tradition now, I guess. A lot of folks, Brian Kelly Jones, just under fire. I know a lot of controversy going around him. He's not going anywhere right now. Yes, is this a pressure-filled year to win? Yes, I do kind of agree with Bud Elliott. He mentioned this on Cover 3 yesterday. There's a lot of pressure on Brian Kelly, a lot of competitive pressure. Don't know if I'll fully go into the hot seat pressure. Yeah, I know Bud did a little bit yesterday, but certainly there's a lot of pressure there. There's no doubt about that. And I'm not sitting here. I know a lot of folks accuse me of being, you're the anti-expectations person. Well, I'm not. I believe there should be expectations, but I also believe that solve your problems doesn't necessarily mean you fire people automatically, but LSU did open the portal. Then last year, I know, Brian Kelly, doing the, the local news interviews and whatnot, and saying, oh, no, we don't buy players. Some folks in the industry pushed back on that, not necessarily like accusing him as being like a bad coach or anything, but certainly questioning, why aren't you using the tools that are at your disposal? Sort of the typical things you would hear if a coach didn't use the portal a whole lot when you needed to, at least what it looked like you needed to. They loaded up, and they got a pretty decent class. A couple guys, Breland Moore from Virginia Tech, outside linebacker. Then they also got a cornerback from Virginia Tech as well. They also got a Hakeem Jackson from Florida. Decent enough talent here. Got some guys they need to replace on the wide receiver side. Delane, and cornerback, another guy from Virginia Tech, pretty good. By the way, too, and I didn't realize this until Bud Elliott has been bringing this up on Cover 3. Man, Virginia Tech got ravaged through the portal. Like, they just, that's might be a discussion for a different show. But Virginia Tech, I don't like seeing that. A lot of players leaving. Weird. But mostly some decent enough talent, 4 to 5-star guys. A Patrick Payton from Florida State. I know Bud yesterday kind of sort of cooled it down like it wasn't that big of a deal, but for LSU it's a big deal, but it's not like I think folks in Tallahassee or Lake City, Florida were, shedding a tear or anything. But decent get for them, good depth piece. Obviously didn't get a quarterback because, well, they somehow got Garrett Nussmeier to come back. And that's kind of a theme I'll touch on here in just a minute. Just in general for a lot of the teams. Miami, Carson Beck, that's kind of the big get here. He's obviously going to elevate that quarterback position. Cam Ward off to the NFL. They did not necessarily have a good option at quarterback. For being real, I don't think they had a guy that would leap off my TV screen or put the fear of God into me necessarily if I was an opposing team. But Carson Beck's there, he's hurt. So him being fully healthy is, what's like a person's name is pretty important. But that one hinges on Carson Beck being fully healthy. I think he will, but boy, if he's not, the folks behind him and the guys that were behind Cam Ward, I'm not saying they're trash because, we don't necessarily always know what these guys are going to turn out to be necessarily, though. Some will say, that the Pop-Tarts will really give you a peek into the behind the curtain stuff. Great shoot to a certain extent, yes, but I'm not going to, go and say, it's doom and gloom for Miami. They're going to go 5-7. They don't have, a healthy, or at least a decent enough quarterback. A talent there, to me, in my opinion, somewhat disaster-proof. I think Mario's done a good job. He's made the changes that defensive coordinator. Shannon Dawson's still there, so golf clap for keeping him around. A good guy. I know Lance Skittery didn't work out. It's a shame, but it needed to be done, apparently. From Miami, that's some good depth pieces, but Carson Beck is, praying emoji, hoping he's healthy. Oregon, mostly the same thing. A lot of depth pieces here, and this is sort of a thing that you will, I think, kind of see a little bit in terms of why there wasn't such a big talent pool in the portal this year. But some good guys. Bear Alexander, third team in a couple years. We'll see about that. is a decent player. Isaiah World, the old tackle from Nevada team that greatly improved. I don't think a lot of folks pay attention to Nevada football. I kind of did a little bit. I mean, I watched the SMU game, fun, but I don't think a lot of folks realize how much of a disaster Nevada football was a couple years ago or last year. This past season, way much better. Definitely upgraded in the coaching staff. They brought in one of the guys from, I think was that Kansas, I believe, one of the coordinators there to run the offense. New staff there. I mean, that's kind of, I think, once again, using a Bud Elliott quote here, and I kind of agree, man, it's kind of telling when, Jay Norvell left there and go to Colorado State. But Isaiah World could be a huge get for Oregon. It needed some pickups there in the offensive line position, and then in that department, he was a 5-star guy in the portal. Probably one of the best talented guys in the portal. Like, granted, he was from a G5 going to a P4, but for a G5 guy elevating, pretty good. I mean, that's golf clap for Oregon for getting him. That's a big piece there, especially they have Dante Moore coming in at quarterback. Seems like it though. Some of the folks, including Bud himself, insinuated, or maybe not insinuate not the right word, but indicated that Oregon may have or may have not been pushing, kicking the cans down the road for quarterback in the portal again. He just mentioned Sam Levitt from Arizona State sticking around. Someone like him, maybe some other players, probably other quarterbacks that didn't go in and whatnot, but they didn't. They decided not to. Mekhi Hughes, running back from Tulane. By the way, speaking of Tulane, if you guys haven't listened to Josh Pate's interview with John Stonewall, please do so. Josh, somewhat fan of the program, never met him before in person. Hopefully I do someday. Watched the interview yesterday when I was doing some work. Great interview. Just a pretty good interview. I haven't listened to it. Never listened to a lot of John Stonewall stuff. Listened to some stuff. I mean, I knew who he was even before Pate actually brought him up, because I'm just definitely one of those folks who, go on the Wikipedia pages when you're bored and looking at all the teams. But Stonewall, never heard him speak before. Just an amazing interview. And then I watched that. Of course, Pate has started his speaker series now since we're in the spring. Go listen to that. Very good insight there from John Stonewall. Very fun interview just in general. Very good. I think Pate did a good job. The questions he was asking him, but speaking of circling back to the player they lost, good player, good running back depth there. Malik Benson from Florida State. Again, not necessarily a player that folks in Tallahassee were shedding a tear over, but granted, they did go 10 and they did go 2-10. But Benson, probably not a guy. I think Bud mentioned him, I think, as being one of the guys that he got in from the portal last year that could have done without him. Didn't like reinvent the wheel or anything. But Oregon, probably the beneficiary in terms of getting pretty good talent. Not necessarily the upgrade. Last one here in the top 5, Texas Tech, man. I'm telling you what, Joy McGuire, now grant you, it is Texas Tech, and, we have to, cool things down a little bit because it is, the sort of, the way I view Texas Tech a little bit differently, because I think Texas Tech is a place that I think should be a lot better than what it has been. Great stadium atmosphere from the folks I've talked to actually with the school there. Great stadium atmosphere when Leach was there, when some of these great offensive minds have been there. Even Cliff Kingsbury to a certain extent, though he flamed out according to some people. But now, I grant you, things defensively were pretty bad, but I think offense is pretty good. But of course, Texas Tech, obviously, the expectations there are a little bit different. Going 7-5, 8-4, that's pretty good. That's typically what you would imagine Texas Tech being. Knowing Joey McGuire from Dave Aranda staff makes me wonder, could he be building something out there? Like, is Joey McGuire and company, are they building something that no one's thinking about? Like, could this potentially be sort of, I don't know, what Dave Aranda has been doing at Baylor? A guy that a lot of folks assumed who had been fired last year. No, casually went named for. Okay. I know a lot of folks don't care about Baylor football. I do. But quietly went named for last year. His second year on the job, wins the Big 12 championship game. Sort of trickled off a little bit and then rising back up. Also, to extend this, kind of similar to what Matt Campbell's done at Iowa State. Makes you wonder, could this be another, in that power vacuum that's been left behind after OU and Texas is leaving? Could this be, could Texas Tech be sort of one of these teams that is sort of going to try to grab up whatever power vacuum is left behind. Because again, you take away those two big boys from that conference, it's essentially a G5 conference, but just with the Power 4 label on it. Which, it's not a bad thing, right? The conference is entertaining, got a lot of fun games. Is it a conference that would necessarily produce a national championship team? Probably not. I'm not totally just going to, I'd say less than 5% chance. It's not zero, but definitely not anything above 5%. But Texas Tech, some of the guys are getting, Romello hype, a former Auburn player from Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, our team too, they got ravaged pretty badly, ironically, in the ACC. How about that? Kind of tells you the stance of the conference, but whatever. That's a different topic for a different episode. Lee Hunter from UCF, interconference transfer there, decent enough to get. They did lose one of the wide receivers, a 5-star kid, a couple years ago to Texas A&M. Whatever. I'm not too concerned about that. But they got some really good depth pieces, guys, 4 and 3-star guys who wouldn't necessarily move the needle at some of these, the Big 2 conferences, the Power 2, Big 10 SEC. But for a conference like, the ACC or Big 12, pretty good, right? I mean, this is kind of what you would want, right? Some decent enough players, guys who were 4 and 3-star guys in the portal. Not the big talent, not the, big shiny thing out there. But this was a pretty good get for them. It's a big class, 17. But in terms of some of the talent they're getting, certainly guys like, defensive linemen, right? The guy from Northern Illinois, Howard, Lee Hunter, Romello hype. Hard name to say there when you're talking really fast, as like me. Of course, me and Jimbo Fisher both have the speech impediment there. In terms of talking really fast, I have to slow down here. But those are really good pieces for them to get. Some of the defensive line, especially in a conference like the Big 12, where there's not a lot of talent there. It's sort of like a G5 conference, but Texas Tech again, Joe McGuire again. Like I'm not lying when I'm saying this. You can go look at their past recent classes. It's like, wow, they've done a really good job over there. So that's kind of your top 5. You can get on the list here. You have Missouri, Florida State. Not a big class, but well, actually take that back. It's a fairly decent class, but I got some decent pieces there. Probably an upgrade there. Auburn's an interesting one. How should I say this? So the theory on Auburn, we'll circle back to Auburn in just a second. We'll just finish out the top 10 here. So Auburn's at 8. The last 2 here going down to 10, Kentucky and Texas A&M. A&M, by the way, got the Hudson, I believe, from I believe he was the wide receiver from Texas Tech. Let me double check here. Yeah, Micah Hudson, really good former 5-star guy. KG Concepcion was also heading to College Station. That's a pretty decent upgrade there for Texas A&M. I don't know what to say. That's a really good get for them. Pretty much I'll definitely consider that a major upgrade, probably a wide receiver. So kind of like the Auburn here. The theory on Auburn, with Hugh Freeze being there, sort of, kind of like Miami and what Mario Cristobal were doing down there, is sort of, the 3-year plan, right? First year, it kind of is what it is, right? You can go 4-8, 5-7, 2-10, 0-11, 0-12. We're gonna flush it. The next couple years should be good. And then by year 2, should see some improvement, sort of like, i.e., look at Miami, goes 5-7, 7-6, and then 10-3. So year 2 should have been sort of, see some improvement, some more bumps in the road, more talent coming in, got, their first big class coming in. Auburn had another big class, again, sort of like Miami, another big class coming in. Then 2024, you start to see, the thing go skyrocket, like one of those SpaceX ships, just takes off really fast. Sort of, in takeoff mode. You have the season that you had. You bring in Cam Ward. You sort of replenish some pieces you couldn't necessarily upgrade at in the portal. In the recruiting. Fix that in the portal. Have these guys be a little bit, wiser and older in their second year. A lot of these freshmen who are coming in their first year and the second year of the new administration go on in year 3, show some improvement. That was a theory for Auburn. The theory for Auburn has always been, Steve Freeze has been there. It's been year 3. 2025. They did some good stuff in the portal, But like I'll talk about in here, or like I'll talk about and mentioning a little bit here throughout this segment here in just a second, there was no big get for them. They did okay. They got a new kicker, a new punter. I think they probably needed that based on some of the guys they get. Oh man, some of their kicking situation for Auburn last year is awful. That just yeah, they needed some help there. That was bad. They got Eric Singleton, probably the best player they got from Georgia Tech, smaller wide receiver, decent enough. They got Jackson Arnold, of course, the headline guy from Oklahoma. Ashton Daniels, by the way, from Stanford, decent enough backup. So you see that. You also see some guys leave who are out. I don't think those guys not so that big of a deal. I don't think anyone from Auburn was like shedding a tear over losing guys like Hank Brown or Caleb Burton, guys like that. But what I'm trying to get here for Auburn is that there just wasn't a big big time play to win the portal. And I think this is something that Bud Elliott and I think Josh Pitt also has echoed as well. This is a sign, at least to a lot of folks in the industry and kind of me, that a lot of these big programs, especially in the Power 2, Big Ten, the SEC, they're paying up. They're keeping their players. You're not seeing the talent level on the portal this year compared to like a couple years ago, like in I don't know, like 2021, 2022, pretty poor compared to a couple years ago. And that may be a bad thing if you're like a coach like Hugh Freeze or Mike Norvell, guys who have a lot of pressure on them. But if you're, I don't know, if you're one of these other big programs like Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, pretty good, right? Most of your 2 deep players are mostly staying behind. Some of them will still leave because that's, playing time and whatnot, and being able to get more money. That's normal. But I think as a college football fan, the fact that we're seeing less big talent move around like this, and we're seeing more or less the big boys in the Power 2 keeping their guys, that's good. I think as a football fan, maybe not as a coach, that's a good sign. That's a sign that you're seeing a lot of these big, programs in the Power 2 are finally keeping their players, paying up, the house money coming in, you're spending a little bit more to keep your guys in. It's sort of like what Ohio State, Michigan did the past couple of years, the past number of years. I cannot remember any major player from Ohio State or Michigan, even with the coaching changes they've had there, even with Michigan losing a coach, now they have Jerome Moore. The 2 guys, big guys on defense, like Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, could have went anywhere, stayed. Ohio State, same thing, like Mecca Ibuka and all these, Jack Sawyer, JTT, could have left, could have gone to the portal, could have gone to the draft. Didn't. Now, you'll probably throw this at me, and a lot of folks will, try to, catch me here and say, well, hold on a minute. Bama, with Saban leaving and Kellen DeBoer coming in, they lost Caleb Downs. Ole Miss lost Quinjon Judkins. Well, the stuff with the Saban leaving and Kellen DeBoer coming in, that's sort of a fault of the system, right? I don't think a lot of folks realize this. Now, hopefully most of you do. That whenever a coach gets fired, there's a coaching change at that school. The school that made that change, the roster is you are able to enter your name into the database. Doesn't matter which time of year it is. It could be summer, spring, fall, winter. You can enter your name in that database, get the password from enrollment services. You can go wherever you want. That is just simply the letter of the law. And that's why you saw Caleb Downs go to Ohio State. That's just what it is, right? You can do that. That's not his fault. That he's using the tools available to him. Quinton Judkins too, leaving Ole Miss, going to Ohio State. I think Josh Pitt kind of touched on this time last year. I don't think folks in Oxford were shedding a tear over that. I'm not saying that Judkins wasn't like a bad player. He's not some garbage player. No, he's a fantastic running back. I think Lane Kiffin and them were like, okay, whatever, fine. You can go get more money. We're fine here. We're not going to spend more money here on you, but you can go elsewhere and get more money. That's kind of what it was. It was more of a mutual thing, whatever. We're not shedding a tear. You're not shedding a tear either by staying here or leaving us. So that's a little bit different. But even Judkins himself, it wasn't some like ultra, program-changing player, right? Ohio State was still talented without him. He could have stayed at Ole Miss, and nothing in the timeline, if you did the whole multiverse Doctor Strange theory, that universe where Judkins stays at Ole Miss and then goes to Ohio State, that doesn't change anything. Like, he doesn't, like what plays this year do you imagine Judkins making a big impact on? For depth purposes, hell yeah. In terms of him being the impact player on that national championship team, no. No offense to him if he's listening, but no, he was not like the reason why. They were winning a national championship, and heck, even they still have Trevion Henderson on the team. They still have running back one on there, and I think the story that Josh Pitt has told and Ryan Day has said publicly, it's like, hey, look, we would want you to be here, but you're not even the starter. And Judkins just flat out told him, I don't care. I just want to play. I want to contribute. So I agree with Bud Elliott here. I think a lot of this, represents, a positive if you're a fan, because, again, there's less talent being around. And also, something that Bud mentioned yesterday, the ACC is in real trouble here. So ACC, Big 12, in terms of not keeping your players and your guys getting poached. Because, again, those two conferences, particularly Big 12, again, basically, like I mentioned earlier, it's literally just a G5 conference with a P4 sticker on it. Them and the ACC are in trouble. Again, like, I can't just wrap my mind. Like, Virginia Tech. The Virginia Tech I knew growing up when I started watching football in the very early 2010s. Like, when Frank Buren was there towards the end of his career, still pretty good. Even, like, the first year of Justin Fuente out, of course, and it got pretty dark towards the end. But in his first year, it's like, man, this is such a long it's just the Virginia Tech's not freaking Heisman anymore. It's like, wow, it's like, I can't even imagine what Frank Beamer's even thinking, just seeing them losing players in the portal. Like, they lost, 31 guys or whatever. Most of them are going to be starters at SEC schools. It's like, if that doesn't tell you the current stance of the ACC, or at least the perception of it, I don't know what it tells you. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, that's, as a fan, I don't like it. As someone who covers the sport, I don't like it. It's sad that the ACC is basically being relegated to what the Big 12 is just the glorified G5 conference now, because everyone literally is just rating historically good programs like Virginia Tech. It's like, man, that's breaks my heart. Sucks. And I don't even live in Virginia. I'm not a Virginia Tech fan. I didn't go there. I don't have people who have gone there. I know some folks who have gone there, but no personal friends. But it's just it's depressing. And I think for Georgia Tech too, and they lost a lot of guys in the portal too. I mean, Singleton, a couple of other guys left. Big impact players. It's just I think two things will be true here. One, like I mentioned, the big boys in the Power 2, they have paid up. They have not fallen behind the Ole Misses of the world, or the Auburns of I guess mainly Ole Miss probably is the only example there. But yeah, they caught up. Obviously, that was going to change. Obviously, its rules were getting more ironed out. That was going to change. But like I just mentioned, thing number 2 can also be true as well. Sort of as you wrap up the segment, is that the ACC's perception here in terms of the players they've lost in the portal and what teams are rated, it's not good. And I think that tells you that some of those collectives over there, if they're not named, I don't know, Clemson, Miami, Florida State, they're struggling really bad. And I'm very concerned about Georgia Tech, and especially Virginia Tech, man. I can't. That's just insane. How many guys they lost, and here are me and Josh P. Last year, we're like, oh man, Virginia Tech's gonna be so good, and here we are having egg on our face by October. Just depressing. I just hope that Virginia Tech one day will be good again. I know you can certainly do that in the College Football 25 Dynasty file, but real life isn't a video game, and unfortunately, Virginia Tech, it's gonna be tough. I don't have, like I said, I don't have any joy saying that, and that's it hurts me to say that. But yeah, that's the sort of wrap here. Going the winter transfer portal segment, I guess. The window, I guess. Yeah, portal window, transfer window. Of course, there will be the one this spring. I think again that one's like 9-ish days or so. It's not 2 weeks anymore. They trimmed it down. But yeah, that's the wrap up there on the transfer cycle for this past winter. We went like almost 30 minutes on that. Wow, I did not expect that to go that long. Next, some water here. The show's not done yet, but we still have a few more segments here. Probably won't go too much longer on some of these segments. We'll try to go more rapid fire on some of these segments for more water here, and then we'll continue to truck along here. By the way, I keep on saying this too. Whenever I do major shows like this, or any podcast and stuff, make sure you have some water with you. It's very, very important. That's pretty good recipe, especially making sure your voice doesn't get make sure it's parched, so you can continue going. But yeah, if you're doing a podcast or anything, you're starting out. I learned this the hard way, especially on the first show, which my voice, man, it went out. But a couple times too, my voices went out. But make sure you have water with you. 100% would recommend. 5-star review on that. You guys know that Ja'Juan Seider left Penn State to Notre Dame. By the way, before we actually really dive in here, I'm pose you a question. Do you know who he is? Do you know who Ja'Juan Seider is? Do you know who he is? I'll give you him. He was on Penn State's coaching staff. Do you know which position was he? Was he OC? Was he defensive backs coach? Was he DC? Co-DC? No, running backs coach. He's off to Notre Dame for the same position. Maybe asking yourself, well, why are you talking about this? This is a minor story. No, it's not. It's a big story, big deal. First off, congrats to Marcus Freeman. You got yourself a very good coach. Josh Pate touched on this on Twitter, and I'm assuming, I think Josh is having a show tonight, so he'll more than likely touch on this. Getting ahead of him. How about that? I brought it up on Twitter too, and I didn't realize this was happening. I believe this went down on Sunday or Saturday. I don't know. It may have been Saturday. I was enjoying my weekend, kind of, doing what you be doing. I think I was actually going for one of my walks, and I happened to just check my phone on Twitter when I got back after I took my shower. And there it was, Pate tweeting about Seider leaving Penn State going to Notre Dame. And I think him mentioning he's like me a future head coach or whatever. I'm not all that plugged in. I don't have like people calling on my phone or any sources at the very least, but I'm pretty plugged in. So that was sort of news to me. I didn't, I wasn't thinking about Penn State's running backs coach being like a future head coach, but hey, got to start somewhere, right? But I didn't realize how much work Seider has actually done. Started out his playing days at West Virginia, played at FAMU. He's from Florida. He's a coach at Florida, by University of Florida, UF, under Jim McElwain. He's Matt Marshall under Doc Holliday. At West Virginia multiple times. At Penn State for the past number of years under James Franklin. Coached a number of guys. I think he was there for Miles Sanders. I don't think he was there for Saquon. He was there after Saquon got there. But Miles Sanders, he coached, of course, Kentron Allen, Nick Singleton. A big reason why he got those guys there. And that's why it matters for Notre Dame. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, of course, they win the gets the national championship game, valiant effort against Ohio State. They get their GM taken from them to USC. I believe that did happen, if I recall correctly. I do not believe the sort of going off track here. I don't believe the GM from Texas Tech is not going to Notre Dame. I think that was confirmed to not be happening. I think there's some confusion there. I think the last couple of days. I believe that's not true. Hopefully that is true. I'm pretty sure that is true. But anyway, so Seider comes into Notre Dame, again, has a proven track record of recruiting, getting guys to the NFL. Again, guys like Miles Sanders and Kentron Allen, Nick Singleton. Big reason why they went to Penn State. Large reason because of Ja'Juan Seider. This huge get for Notre Dame. Huge get. Huge get. Again, Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. Again, he already has a decent enough staff. He's lost some guys, but I think what really shows you, again, I will be honest with you guys, I was concerned about Marcus Freeman. After they lost to Marshall a couple years ago. By the way, correctly predicted by Kirk Herbstreit a number of years ago in College Game Day. I remember him bringing it up on his Superdog segment. I'm like, that's interesting, Marshall. And lo and behold, it happened. So maybe Kirk Herbstreit's Doctor Strange too. Maybe he has those same powers like Josh Pate. It's almost like they can see the future. How about that? It's kind of crazy, right? But so Marcus Freeman, I was concerned about him. Some of those concerns have been alleviated. I think he's proven himself this year or this past season, losing to Northern Illinois. The worst loss of any team who's made it to a national championship, by the way, which is insane to think about. But kudos to him for doing that. He kept that team afloat. That team could have very easily, after losing to NIU, okay back team. By the way, a team that is moving to the Mountain West. That's a whole other geography in this sport does not exist anymore. But losing to a fairly decent MAC team, at least last year, that whole season last year could have easily fallen apart. They could have easily gone off the rails. could have been a disaster. Didn't happen. He calmed things down. They got back to work. They slowly and surely trickled off a bunch of wins against the schedule. Hard, not necessarily the hardest schedule, not even the easiest. It's somewhat manageable, but pretty impressive, right? They handled USC. They handled Louisville. Pretty dangerous team. Handled Georgia Tech on the neutral site. So, like I mentioned, that team could very easily. We've seen teams in the past, Michigan, App State, losing that game, and things went downhill pretty quickly. And of course, Lloyd Carr retires or pseudo got fired. Auburn almost losing to Jacksonville State a couple, actually 10 years ago, almost now. There's been stories from guys like Brandon Marcello who brought this up that, Malzahn was going to get fired if they lost. That was the thinking once Jacksonville State, I believe, took the lead in that game, that he was probably going to get fired. I don't know. I'm not questioning Brandon here, but I don't. Okay, all right, whatever. But I guess outside of what Notre Dame did, only other example of a team having a big upset like they did, and then actually sort of having a pretty decent year was probably Virginia Tech in 2010. After losing to James Madison, they still won the ACC, I believe, if I recall that correctly. Speaking of Frank Beamer earlier, but yeah, they did a very good job of getting that thing steadied. And you've started to see again a lot of these guys, staff turnover guys moving on different positions, but getting someone like a Ja'Juan Seider, again, a guy who a lot of folks in the industry are very high on, Josh Pate, guys like Curve, I believe mentioned this yesterday, a guy who, and some folks believe will be a future head coach, a guy who knows South Florida, very good recruiter. Again, the reason why guys like Nick Singleton, Miles Sanders, Keyshawn Allen, who've been to Penn State, why Penn State's been so good at getting running backs recently is because of him. A large part of that. And he's going to be a very big commodity for him. And if these guys are saying are truly guys like Josh Pitt, this guy probably is in track to be a future head coach. Which again, I think kind of tells you the way the sport's going, where you don't have to be just a coordinator anymore. You don't have to be just a OC or a DC or something like that, or a G5 head coach. You can very easily be just a position coach. You can go to one of these, lower tier, Power Forward conference jobs. You can do some good stuff there. Like, for example, guys like Brent Key, guys, if you look at some of these guys' journeys, like a guy like John Sturmel, for example, a guy who was like a position coach at Kentucky, guy who's been around the Southeast for a very long time, guy who grew up in Huntsville, a place where I have spent a lot of time at. He wasn't a coordinator. He wasn't a guy that was calling plays. He got the job at Troy, and he won 11 games in 2 years, and that's like 11 games in 2 seasons over there. And then he goes to Tulane and have a good season there last year, fairly decent season. That's the way the sport's going now, and I think it's amazing for some of these guys like Summerall, guys like Kenny Dillingham, even to a certain extent, even guys who haven't necessarily been just position coaches, guys who have been coordinators, a guy like Will Stein at Oregon. I think very similar to Kenny Dillingham will probably get a big head coaching job. Guys, going back to, using the Auburn example, Rhett Lashley, who was with Gus Malzahn for a long, long time, got the head coaching job at SMU. Look what they're doing there, sort of continuing what Sonny Dykes was doing over there. Of course, we had some failures, guys like Chad Morris and whatnot. But I think now with NIL, the portal, being able to go to these low-tier P4 teams or these high-tier G5 teams, you're starting to see a lot of these guys have very, very good, a lot of success very quickly. Now, some places a little bit different, but I think a guy like a Ja'Juan Seider, who, again, a position coach, very talented recruiter, a lot of ties to South Florida because he's from there, duh. A guy like him, I think in a couple of years could be a head coach somewhere. Again, in the lower tier P4, high level G5. I think guys like him, Seider at Notre Dame now, Will Stein at Oregon, those are probably your future big time coaches there. Even a guy like Kevin Peoples, guy that Josh Peoples was really assessed of this time last year, and still is. He still speaks highly of him. He was with Blake Baker, the defensive line coach. He could also potentially be a future head coach as well. Very talented guy, very well decorated defensive line coach. Those are guys you don't be surprised if you ever see those guys' names sort of wiggle into any of these future coaching searches that may or might happen this year. these guys are very talented guys. And I think for Notre Dame, getting someone like Ja'Juan Seider, again, a guy who is, a lot of folks are very, very excited about him and his future and his history, what he's done at Penn State, what he's done at places like West Virginia and Marshall, and someone who, again, has strong ties to the state of Florida. I think Marcus Freeman got himself a rock star guy, a guy who knows what he's doing. Marcus Freeman, of course, wants to run the football, very, power football-oriented offense. They run the run over there. Of course, a guy being more defensive. They're obviously going to need a lot of talent running the football, and I think they're going to get a lot, especially in a place like Notre Dame, where they have had a lot of running back talent there in the past. And I think someone like a Ja'Juan Seider is going to continue that. So, God clap for Ja'Juan Seider. I never met the guy before. I'm sure a lot of folks have. I think guys on the cover of 3, Josh Pate especially. He's been to Penn State multiple times. I'm sure he's definitely met him a number of times. I've never met him before, but based on what I've seen from his profile and what he's done, and some of the guys players he's recruited and produced and gone on to the pros. Huge get for Notre Dame here. Huge get. Cannot emphasize that. I think this will. I mean, that's not the biggest programming change, but I think especially for Seider, if he wants to be a head coach, and a lot of folks believe he will be, this is one of those next steps, and it'll be interesting to see what his career turns out to be. And he's not that old either. I mean, he's not that young either. He's old. He's 47 years old. Again, he's been doing this for a long, long time. Former player. Again, that strong tie to South Florida and that recruiting belt down there, like Orlando, Tampa, Miami, even Jacksonville, I guess. Maybe probably moved the whole state of Florida, but I think especially South Florida. That's been very important, especially in this new world of recruiting, even the transfer portal as well. You can, if you have strong ties or a lot of those guys and a lot of connections, especially with high school teams, coaches, and a lot of those folks, at high school level, that's a huge get. And I think Seider is definitely going to fit that role there at Notre Dame. And look, if people like Josh Payne are saying this guy's going to be a future head coach, and then, hey, that's a lot of praise for someone like him. Someone who didn't even play college football. To say that's someone who's been plugged in for a long time like him. That's a big deal. And if he thinks it's a big deal, that's a big deal to me. So I care. But Ja'Juan Seider going to Notre Dame via Penn State. It's a big deal. Yes, it does matter. And I'm very excited to see what this means for not only Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman, but his career too. Very interesting to see. And again, very much so a changing landscape in college football. A lot of guys being hired. A lot of guys who are not necessarily guys who would imagine being head coaches could be head coaches pretty soon. Again, think Will Stein at Oregon. Again, I think 10 years ago, I don't think anyone in their minds was thinking, oh, who is this guy? Kenny Dillingham or Dane Lanning? Like, these guys are not going to be head coaches in the Big 12 or the Big 10, former Pac-12. Look where they're at now. Like, Dane Lanning has Oregon as a machine on the West Coast. Dillingham is building something at Arizona State, and it's a good blueprint there after whatever the crap Herm Edwards was doing down there. I think all these younger guys, and some of these guys have been experienced for a long time, especially at these position coaching positions. The guys are really doing the dirty work in terms of recruiting and stuff like that. Pretty important. This is a big gift for them, and it does matter. So I'm talking about it, and hopefully you guys got some good insight there into Ja'Juan Seider. We'll get some more water here, and then we'll talk about Thunderbolts trailer. Don't wrap up the show with predictions versus reality. So, quick drink of water here. Okay, stop enough water. I want to check Twitter real quick, and also the show audio just to make sure nothing's breaking on breaking news or anything. Because there's a lot of things going on right now. Let me just double check, make sure we are live on the YouTube. By the way, again, as I'm checking live, make sure you're subscribed. Number one, make sure you like the stream, get subscribed. Don't have to turn on the notification bell if you want to, but it's not recommended, or it's not required. It's recommended. You don't have to. I don't actually do it personally. And also follow me on Twitter as well for verticals, or for vert_pod on Twitter, and then same thing for Spotify. So I'm going to check and see if on Twitter, and then same thing. Okay, guys can hear me. That's fantastic. So I'm going to check Twitter real quick here just to make sure no breaking news is coming out. I know there was some stuff about Matt Patricia at Ohio State. How about that? That's not been finalized yet or anything. That's just something that's been pointed out there by a couple of sources, and yeah, I don't see anything yet. So so far, no major news is broke yet. But if anything does break, we'll obviously cover it on Thursday. Thunderbolts trailer, yes. So this happened on Sunday during the Super Bowl. I was watching it like you guys. Trailer comes out, watch it on my phone, or actually it's on my computer. Actually, watched it. Great trailer. Probably one of the better trailers that Marvel's put out lately. Now, I mean, it's gonna be tough to break that Fantastic Four trailer, which I think the more and more I've been watching that trailer, the more I really appreciated it for what they're doing, and finally getting the Fantastic Four done properly. Look, as much as I've been bashing Marvel's marketing team, look, they deserved it, right? The Captain America: Brave New World stuff, the clips they've been releasing, of course, the Fantastic Four launch for the trailer, their little live stream they did wasn't necessary. Probably you could have just made that a Good Morning America exclusive only, but I will give them credit though when they do something good, and I think this Thunderbolts trailer probably the best one they put out, or one of the best ones they put out probably in the last couple of years. I mean, it was very, very good. The comedy was there, seeing all the characters. John Walker, U.S. agent, Yelena Belova, Ghost from Ant-Man the Wasp, Taskmaster, who, by the way, I think it's kind of obvious that character is going to be killed off, and probably for a good reason. Nothing against the actors playing her, but not the best version of Taskmaster. I fondly remember when the stuff was coming out that character was going to be very different from it was in the comics or even some of the video games and stuff. And I was talking to a buddy of mine actually during high school, from high school. This is actually way before COVID. Actually, may have been actually during the summer. Actually, that summer when it was starting to come out that the character is going to be featured in the Black Widow movie. That not the same from the comics, not the same from the video games either. So, and it turns out that was the case, and probably a good thing the character's being killed off. Of course, we got to see David Harbour from Stranger Things, of course, back as Red Guardian. Cool. Of course, Sebastian Stan back as Bucky Barnes. The rumor out there is that he may be appearing in Captain America: Brave New World. That's been a long rumor for a while, though. Again, that movie's been for a lot of reshoots. Actually, as I'm doing this, actually, a lot of rumors or actually leaks been coming out that the post-credit scene may have been changed during reshoots. So it may not be the same one that was reported back on Reddit. So again, just be careful. A lot of times you're going on some of these leaks and whatnot. That's fun to follow those, but certainly if a movie like Brave New World, which has been changed so much because of reshoots and stuff, a lot of the information has been out there from like leakers and scoopers, probably bad information. And something like this where movies been through a ton of reshoots. But yeah, I think the trailer looked really good. The vibe was pretty cool. Got to see finally what Avengers Tower looks like. Probably is going to be the Watchtower of the century. Got to see him. Of course, that's from the comics. Of course, a lot of it's the final battle looks to be taking place in New York. Got to see a lot of, ironically, got to see the alternate New York in Fantastic Four. Now you got to see the current main version, like the one that we're used to seeing, like the Empire State Building and Chrysler Building. Of course, the One World Trade Center is in there in the background and one of the shots. So obviously, that is the current version of New York. Getting overtaken by the Void from the comics. I'm not going to go too deep into the whole comic lore. That's for guys like, Josh over there, nerds to get into. By the way, very good channel to subscribe to if you want more of the really, really in-depth stuff. We do that sometimes over here, but knowing what I know from watching his videos and like New Rock Stars and stuff, doing the Void's history and century, his character and how important he is and how powerful he is to a certain extent. This looks like this is gonna be a fun movie. Again, the trailer did a really good job of portraying that. I thought, seeing a lot of the different action shots were pretty cool. I think the vibe's pretty good. I just think, and I mentioned this on Twitter, I mentioned this last week, based on a lot of things I'm hearing from all these, guys like Alex Perez and some of these other Twitter leakers and scoopers for the Marvel stuff. It seems to me this Thunderbolts movie, a movie that maybe 2 years ago when it was announced, I'll be honest with you, I was not excited. I was even going into some of the leaks and rumors, and I've touched on some of those even on this show. I think even commented last week about Of course, the origin of the team name coming from the Atlanta soccer team when she was a kid. That obviously is very different from the comics. When I heard that this time last year, I was like, all right. But even just like going back to even this time last year, my opinion on this movie at the moment has completely flipped. I never really found myself saying that, but after seeing the first trailer, not this one, and also hearing that some of the stuff behind the scenes went on, some of the leaks and rumors, I'm actually pretty excited about this to a certain extent. Well, actually, not even a certain extent. I'm very excited. Again, I would not imagine myself saying this even this time last year, even when the movie was announced like 3 years ago. I mean, this is crazy how much this has changed, and I'll give Marvel credit here. They might be cooking here. And what's kind of crazy too, it's like them doing the Century stuff and all this stuff like the Void and whatnot was not the original movie. I think a lot of the original leaks and rumors and some of the things that have come out from guys like Alex Perez is that this movie was going to be a Black Widow sequel, which is why you have Red Guardian being there and Yelena obviously being there and Taskmaster. Those three characters, the reason why there's sort of like a more of a bias, if you will, towards that movie is that this is what this movie was going to be. It was originally going to be a Black Widow sequel movie. That's what it was going to be. And then it just evolved into Thunderbolts, and now it's, of course, has the asterisk on it, probably hinting at this being Dark Avengers, which, makes sense, right? Because there is no official Avengers team. But if that post-credit scene leak recently, in the past couple of 24 hours or so, from Captain America Brave New World is true, a bit of a contradiction, but I'm not going to dive into that here. I'll save that for Thursday. Don't worry. We'll do a whole preview for Captain America Brave New World on Thursday show. That's, of course, movie will be out in international markets. Be a lot of spoilers and leaks and stuff. But for the most part, we'll be mostly spoiler less for the most part. I'll probably dive into some spoilers, but yeah. But leaks and stuff. But if that post-credit scene leak is true, then the Thunderbolts team in this movie being the Dark Avengers actually kind of strange. It's like, okay, based on that leaked post-credit scene, at least the description that some of the leakers on Twitter put out, kind of strange and kind of contradicts what they're doing in this movie to a certain extent. We'll see. But yeah, thought the trailer was good. Very excited. And also we got our first look at Century. Albeit it was sort of blacked out, but that's his form and the Void's taking over. Looks great, by the way. Again, that special effects of like the people sort of like just, I don't know, like being just their shadows just left. It's kind of a very interesting visual effect there. Very interesting little visual gig there. And I'm interested to see what it looks like even when it's more finished up, because I'm pretty sure they'll have some time to finish it up and polish it up and then look particularly perfect. But even as an unfinished effect, it looked pretty cool actually. And very excited there. So yeah, Brave New World preview will go up on Thursday. We'll touch on that on the show then towards the end. Yeah, Thunderbolts trailer looked good. Very excited now, even more excited than I was. Definitely this time last year, even back in the fall. But yeah, how about that? Never would have thought that I've been excited for a Thunderbolts movie with mostly B-level characters. But I think the cast is good. I think them doing the Century, very smart, and very important character from the Marvel Comics. A very powerful character too. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, predictions versus reality. So how long have you actually been going for here? I have not checked. Almost going for an hour. So yeah, so perfect here. So we're going to do predictions versus reality, then we'll get out of here. So predictions versus reality. We're going to be doing this for probably a few more weeks, probably. Then once spring practice starts, really begins to ramp up, I think we will probably transition from this and move on to more spring practice stuff. But who knows? Maybe we'll still be doing this. But yeah, so two teams on deck here. Ironically, they're both rivals. USC and Notre Dame. Just spoke about Notre Dame. Notre Dame's probably the easiest one to go through here. So my best case scenario for them, of course, they're the national runner-up. Best case scenario was 11-1. Worst case scenario 9-3. Most reasonable was 10-2. Sort of a spot on here. Best case scenario ended up happening 11-1 earlier this season. Only loss was to Northern Illinois, but I don't think I would have predicted the actual loss, which is hard to do. I think doing the record projections and sort of what Josh Pate does, probably the smart way to do it. But 11-1 best case scenario hit here. which is I'm glad that was the case. Worst case scenario, 9-3, based on if USC wasn't really good, Georgia Tech, Louisville, probably their tough games there. Obviously, Texas A&M was one of them. I thought 10-2 probably was the more reasonable thing, and because of the schedule, starting out with A&M, going to USC late in the year, so that's the reason for that. But Notre Dame, I think we had a pretty good read on. Again, best case scenario was 11-1. Worst case 9-3. Reasonable was 10-2. Okay, USC. This one was we missed this one pretty poorly. For the most part, I think the most reasonable projection was actually more close to what ended up happening. So our best case scenario was 10-2. That obviously did not happen. Worst case scenario 5-7. Could have made the argument maybe during middle of the season when they were losing to Minnesota, for example. You could have probably. I know some folks were saying this team could be in danger of losing losing the ability to go to a bowl game. They didn't. They actually went. I think their final record was actually 8-5. Let me go double check that. Actually, I don't totally remember USC 2024 Wikipedia page. Okay, 7-6. So yeah, definitely closer to 5-7. But I think our reasonable scenario here being 8-4. Yeah, not exactly, but it was definitely closer. We're definitely on the lower side of USC. Obviously, of course, best case scenario did not happen. Definitely more in line with the worst case scenario, like worst case to reasonable combined, if you will, like the best of both. It wasn't great, wasn't good either, or wasn't bad either. Yeah, so defense was pretty poor this year. Offense took a step back. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Defense took a step forward. Offense took a step backwards. Talent still an issue there. They lost a lot of guys in the portal, although some of those guys, they can make the argument that I don't think any folks in Los Angeles were shedding a tear losing some of those guys, like Bear Alexander probably. But yeah, it was a very hard season. Of course, Lincoln Riley, a lot of pressure on him, competitive pressure. I don't think he's getting fired necessarily unless things really just go down the hill this season and my tune will change. Yeah, offenses wasn't good enough. Miller Moss wasn't good enough. Now he moves on to Louisville. I think probably better fit there. We'll see what they do at quarterback. They have spring to sort of figure that out. Defense, I think, under D'Anton Lynn, Anthony Lynn's son, I believe. If that's correct. I think they are related. Should be better. I think defense should be better, but they did lose a lot of talent. It's going to be tough. Their schedule, by the way. Looking ahead a little bit here. So we're doing like a mini preview, I guess. So they begin with Missouri State. By the way, welcome to FBS, Missouri State. How about that? They will be in the, by the way, the College Bowl video game. So how about that? They'll be added in. Them in Delaware. So Missouri State. So there's no FCS actually. So they were going to be FCS, but not anymore. So no FCS then, at least this year's schedule. Yeah, Missouri State, Georgia Southern. Some of that, more of a southeastern themed non-conference here. At Purdue, I think that should be reasonably. I think you would assume 3-0. Michigan State probably 4-0. At Illinois, it's gonna be tough. Illinois is a really good team. I have a lot of players coming back, and Brett Bielema. I know he's been clowning on Josh Pate for his JP pool, but as a coach, I respect him. I don't know what happened to Arkansas, whatever that was, whatever. But him being back in Illinois, being back in the Big Ten, a conference that I think fits him the most in terms of style and whatnot. That's a good team. Michigan, Notre Dame, he gets more frisky here towards the back here, of course, at Oregon. So it starts off relatively simple, manageable, if you will. Should be probably 3-0, and then we'll see. I haven't checked the win totals yet for USC. I would assume probably 6.5, 7.5, which for USC fans, it's not good. But I think if you look at USC last year, defense improved, offense got worse. I do not expect the offense to be this bad forever. They got, of course, Jane Maeva, who was from UNLV a couple years ago. He's back. He was the other transfer they took in, or one of the transfers they took in. They were, remember, going to get Will Howard, but Will Howard just got spooked by what Miller Moss was doing in the bowl game. Of course, that really didn't have any effect on the season. Longstreet, the quarterback, I believe former 5-star kid. was going to go to Texas A&M. He ended up decommitting, and he's at USC now. So he's probably the future. I think Maeva's probably going to be your starter. Again, they have decent players over there, but they're not players or guys I would say would be, guys I would feel comfortable about. They also have a Sam Heward, who I believe is Brock Heward's son. Is that right? Is that Brock Heward's son? Well, no, he is he is the nephew of Brock Heward. My mistake. He's not Brock Heward's son. He's the nephew. He's related to him though. He's in the same family. His last name's obviously the same, so he's related to Brock Heward. By the way, great guy at Fox too. He's very good with his Fox college football stuff, and I believe he does NFL too. I know he's into Madden stuff, but they have Sam Heward and also have Maeva. So probably the two guys you'd reasonably expect to see quarterback situation. Defense, we'll see. It was good last year. Don't know if it'll be that much better, but the schedule, at least in the first couple of weeks, or actually first 4 weeks, is very manageable. But then it gets really real in the hurry. Again, at Illinois, Michigan, at Notre Dame, Nebraska. Luckily, you get Northwestern, Iowa, so reasonably you'd expect to win those. At Oregon, and then UCLA, we'll see. But I think it's interesting to say the least as to what this USC team could be. Again, I kind of figure that they should be a lot better, or at least they should be at least fairly decent on defense. I don't know if you can be that much better. Because again, I think the defense last year, regardless of what the record was, massive improvement for them. Though unfortunately, history won't see it that way, nor will Wikipedia see it that way, because you went 7-6, and that's not necessarily the standard at USC. I would assume that's not the case. But last year for our projections for them, best case was again 10-2. That obviously didn't happen. 5-7. Got pretty close to that, and then reasonable was aimed for. So, I guess we kind of got the best read on that. But obviously, the best case scenario. I guess the read is pretty good. 5-7 was probably the worst case scenario. 10-2 probably best case. Aim for was reasonable. Obviously, didn't happen, so we missed on that. But our Notre Dame one was pretty much spot on there. I think USC was kind of spot on, but we got a whole lot more things here on this document here on this Microsoft Word document. We have, like Virginia Tech. We were looking at that one. We were way off on that one. Rutgers is on here. Indiana, we were way off on that one. Man, that was really bad. UCLA, I think we're pretty much spot on with. I think Louisville are pretty. We'll finish. Maybe we'll get into those at some point. But we do plan to also do the Buccaneers too. They will also be a part of this as well. We did that back in the summer. Of course, we'll bring this back at the earliest, first week of May, latest Memorial Day weekend or after that. But and that's it for the show today. So how about that? So we'll be back on Thursday. If any breaking news happens, if anything happens with the Ohio State defensive coordinator search, of course the OC search has been finalized. It's Brian Hartline. It's not necessarily the combination of him and Kevin Wilson, but Hartline's the OC co-OC. Whatever for what that's worth. Of course, having an offensive-minded head coach. But nice to see Brian Hartline getting that position, if you will. Of course, Chip Kelly moving on to NFL. But we'll see what happens, what they do with the defensive stuff. Matt Patricia, again, he's supposedly there's some movement there, apparently. We'll see what happens. But more likely, we'll see you guys on Thursday. We'll touch on any breaking news with that. Of course, Thursday is when Captain America Brave New World is coming out for the early releases. So we'll do my preview for that. I'll try to go see it this week. If not this week, next week. But that should be a lot of fun. I'll say that. It should be a lot of fun this week. Trying to think of anything else we've missed here. I don't think there is. But if there's any other breaking news, of course, we'll do a extra pod, a quick video, or audio only. But thank you guys for coming in. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the stream, subscribe to the podcast feed, and follow us on Twitter as well. So until Thursday, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, enjoy your Wednesday, take care, and we will see you, all of you guys, in the next stream.